It's amazing that we tour all around the country,
right.
and at every show there's at least one person, if not dozens, when we say we're from a small town in Virginia called Harrisonburg, and somebody is like, "Go Dukes!" It's an amazing just community to be part of.
Welcome to Being the Change, the official podcast of James Madison University, brought to you by Madison Magazine. Each episode brings to you stories of how members of the JMU community combine intellect with action to live lives of purpose and meaning. That's Being the Change.
What's up, JMU? Andy Perrine here. Welcome to Being the Change. This is an episode about music, and there's a lot of musicians that come out of JMU and do pretty darn well, and there's a band that graduated in 2012. They weren't a band then, but they are now. They're alumni from JMU, Jeff Gorman and Jake Cochran, and they comprise the band Illiterate Light. You may have heard of them. They're getting really popular. They're selling out shows. They're headlining across the United States. They just have a new album out called Arches that they're going to support on a tour. And listeners of My Morning Jacket, Wilco, Neil Young, they'll find kindred spirits in Illiterate Light. And they come back to campus all the time, and they talk to classes about the industry, about writing music. Jeff and Jake, thanks for being with us.
It's great to be here. I just got to dive in right away and just say, we do so many interviews and radio shows, and believe it or not, a fair amount of podcasts, and never feel the way I feel right now starting. I'm going, wow, that was awesome. Thank you. Thank you for reading about us, and it makes us feel really comfortable and happy to be here because we love JMU, and it's a fun time for Jake and I to be out on the road and take a couple days to swing by and say hi.
Well, thanks for saying so. And the reason why is because I'm an alumnus too. And so we bleed purple together.
That's right.
So we can relate. And whenever you run into somebody, no matter where you are, you're like, did you go to JMU? Mm-hmm. Because they're totally cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Of course. Of course.
It's amazing that we tour all around the country,
right.
And at every show there's at least one person, if not dozens, when we say we're from a small town in Virginia called Harrisonburg, and somebody. It's like, go Dukes! It's an amazing just community to be part of.
And no matter where I am in an airport, if I've got some gear on, inevitably I'll get a Go Dukes.
Yep.
So anyway, well, welcome to campus. Now you guys have a really interesting story, and if you don't know anything about Illiterate Light, they're a duo, but they sound like a massive rock band. And this was kind of by mistake, wasn't it?
It was by mistake. Well, I will say this, we formed in 2015, we graduated in 2012. And then when we formed this band in 2015, we started as a trio for 6 months. And then we started touring pretty heavily, and pretty quickly we realized we weren't a trio, we're a duo. Because one of the guys couldn't come out as much. And we had an idea from the get-go, because when you think about a rock duo, a lot of times people think about the White Stripes or the Black Keys.
Or Low.
Or Low, yes, yeah. So they're on a different side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But if you think about rock duo, then you're typically thinking about, sort of bluesy, heavier rock sort of thing. And I think really from the get-go, we wanted to try to do something different. And that started the second that Jake, who's sitting next to me, said, I'm not going to sit down and play drums. I'm going to stand up.
And this was for
drums.
a specific gig where you had already booked it, and
right.
And the bassist was gone suddenly.
Yeah, so the story you're referring to is our bassist at the time. Jeff and I had graduated at this point when we started Illiterate Light in 2015. Our bassist was still a student at the time. And we were excited to have him as part of the band, but Jeff and I, this wasn't our first band. This wasn't our first time around the bend here. And so we were like, we are fully committed, and touring is the way that we're going to make this work. And we told our bassist that, hey, there may come a time where you have to choose between touring with Illiterate Light and going to school.
And going to college.
Mm-hmm. And that hit pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so we had a 4-day tour planned to Cincinnati. We had a little festival, and we're booking ourselves. We're figuring it all out as we go. But the day before that we left for that tour, our bassist said, "Hey, my some professor was like, if you miss another Friday class, you're failed for the semester." And so that was Jeff and I became a duo out of necessity.
JMU beat Illiterate Light on that one, but we never held it against them.
Well, there'll be some faculty listening to this who will be proud of the decision that student made.
That's right.
But actually, it forced you into a creative corner to some degree, and out of that, sometimes can come some of the most creative responses. So, how did you respond?
That's so often the case, and so the response was, okay, well, we can't play this show the way that we want to play it. So let's figure out a new way to play it. And so Jake decided to stand up and play drums. And
real quick, Jake, yeah. what was the impulse to stand?
Well, I'm primarily a drummer. Like starting all the way back in elementary school, I was in band. I was in anything that I could do that was percussion related, I did.
You were a marching band kid,
and then
right?
high school marching band. I didn't make it into. I didn't join the marching Royal Dukes. When I came to JMU, actually, the main music program that I got involved with was the jazz group. I wasn't a music student, but I got involved in the combo program and was in a bunch of like 1-credit courses just so that I could have a place to play drums. But marching band was huge for me. I did it all throughout high school, and so standing felt very natural.
Okay.
And it was just one of those things where it's like it came out of a bit more of a performance mindset. Mm-hmm. I knew Jeff and I were going to center our band around the live show, and we did one show as a duo where Jeff was in the front and I was forced in to use the house backline drum kit, which is way at the back, and the sound engineer didn't want to move mics. He was just kind of grumpy, and all of a sudden Jeff and I were trying to sing harmonies. He's turning around looking at me, and I don't know, I felt like a second-class citizen. So the next,
like drummers often do, right?
I was not loving it,
as they should be, in my opinion. But it's another story.
But yeah, right away, Jeff and I decided, well, like there's two of us, and the drums are a really beautiful visual instrument, and I just wanted to bring that energy forward. And I was like, well, I'm gonna tell sound engineers that I play standing up and I don't know how to play that drum kit. And it was kind of a funny thing to do.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I just drew a line, in the sand and was like, I play standing up. We're going to have to set my drum set up front. And it was sort of like a rebellious, but it turned into this amazing thing where I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a person in mind that had done this. Right. I just wanted to do something different. I wanted it to feel unique and special. Yeah. And
I think it's also important too for people listening that haven't seen what we're talking about here. This, Jake's marching band background is not really what he's doing on stage as a standing drummer now. It's, imagine if you're a music lover, a big dose of like John Bonham from Led Zeppelin. It's like that, but it's, the first thing that you see on the stage. And in between songs, there's jumping out into the crowd, there's crowd surfing. Right. So, it's not like Jake's up there doing a marching band thing. He's a full-on rock drummer, but balancing on one foot and kind of going crazy through the whole show.
Well, to Jeff's point, a lot of the press that you guys get is about the fact that you guys are producing massive sound. You cite Bonham. They used to record him in an airplane hangar with mics, across the room. Every article about you guys says these two guys are producing massive sound, and you're playing the bass with your feet.
That's right. That's the other sort of secret ingredient to what we're doing is that I'm Jeff Gorman playing guitar and singing, but then what you sort of can't see when you see our live show is that I've got a single octave keyboard that is at my feet. And if you can think of the scene from Big, where they're jumping on that big piano and making sounds, sure. It's like a miniature version of that. When we play live, I play a synthesizer with my foot. It's a synthesizer called the Moog Taurus, and that means that we actually have 3 instruments in our band, even though there's 2 guys, and then we've got 2 voices as well. And so I can do one thing with my hands and play guitar that way, and then another thing with my feet, and I can play bass that way. And it took several years to feel comfortable doing that.
Because you're also singing.
Because I'm singing, and I'm also, my end goal is to perform and to connect with this guy and to look at the fans. And I don't want to look at my feet. And so there were several years of, you got to put in your 10,000 hours. You got to workshop these things. And for folks that live in, Charlottesville or have been around there, we would play these shows at a spot like the Whiskey Jar on the downtown mall or Miller's, and it'd be 4-hour bar gigs, just me and Jake. And so 4 hours of playing covers. And that's where I developed a muscle memory to play this instrument without looking at it, which was important to me because I didn't want to be a gear nerd band. But that's how we've developed our sound. And that's sort of the core foundation. And now we've got several other, little tricks that we do to build out the sound. But yeah, people say when you close your eyes and go to an Illiterate Light show, it might feel like there's 5 people on stage.
Well, talking about music is a lot like dancing about architecture. So why don't we listen to a song off of your second album, Light Me Up. Why don't you set us up with that?
So this is a song off our record called Sunburned. And we recorded this record in Richmond, Virginia, at a studio called Montrose. We shot the music video right here in Harrisonburg. We threw a crazy house show at a DIY spot called Crayola, and we shot the music video there. But this was the first single that we put out off our second record, Sunburned. It's called Light Me Up.
All right, I love that tune. I really do, and I've been to Crayola, and I know the scene there. So it was born out of a cauldron.
Yes. That's a lot of our roots as a band. For folks that are listening and maybe unfamiliar, there's been a long legacy of these amazing house shows in Harrisonburg, and they're these places where you can do alternative art, and you can have 20 people slammed into a basement and just have an amazing night. And so that is sort of where we cut our teeth as a band. And, we still try to bring, there's so many nights where, before we're going out on stage, like we just played the Jefferson Theater in Charlottesville, and there was 700 or 800 people there,
which is a sellout at the Jefferson.
And there's not 20 people in a basement, But our feeling before we go on that stage is, I want this show to feel like that basement. I want people to have the same intimacy, the same energy, the same, can we transmit our energy from this stage, not to 20 people right in front of us, but to 1,000. That's been the challenge and something that we really try to hold on to.
Well, and that approach is so unconventional, but to take it even a step further in flouting convention, you guys have some real hard and fast ways that you see the world in terms of wanting to protect the environment, wanting to be part of the earth. And you've approached your touring in a way that has also yielded some very unique performance realities. Why don't you describe for us, and I've seen this right out in front of Pale Fire once.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're at that.
Describe for us that.
I'll start with the backstory there, because since we're here at JMU, it's really interesting. I think, to sort of lay my cards on the table, my senior year, we took a organic farming internship class at JMU. And I was a history major and a music industry minor. And so this was purely out of interest. And, I didn't know anything was wrong. I didn't know anything was going down with, this is so funny, but I just didn't know our food system had some severe limitations. I wasn't hip to the environmental movement. So this was really news to me when I started taking this course here at JMU. And what they did, Jake and I took it together. They sent us out, and we worked on an organic farm in Singer's Glen, Virginia, 10 miles from here. And we spent a year. We spent a season interning there, and then that ended, and that was May. And so we'd been there January, February, March, April, May. We'd been there all the winter months doing all the hard work, and then it was school's over, time to go harvest, and the class is done. And so I remember hitting up Andrew Schaefer, the farmer, and being like, I'd like to see the fruit of our labor. I'd like to see the things that we planted, and I'd like to sort of be in touch with this whole thing for the whole season. So we started just volunteering there over the next few months.
And Singer's Glen happens to be an idyllic place too.
It's beautiful.
So, yeah, it's beautiful up there.
It's so beautiful. And so we fell in love with the area. We fell in love with working with our hands. We were really turned on to that here. We were playing music at night, and we were farming and helping out, and then taking the produce to the farmer's market afterwards. And anything we didn't sell at the farmer's market, we'd walk to Cuban Burger. We'd walk to the Friendly City Food Co-op and say, hey, we've got these great organic tomatoes, heirlooms, Cherokee Purple, and we'll sell them for $1.99 a pound. And so, we were sort of enlightened to the food movement. And at that time, we also found a bunch of folks that wanted to reduce our use of fossil fuels. And so there were some folks here at JMU that designed a bicycle-powered generator. And the idea was this: is it possible to perform a show and to not use any fossil fuel in the process? That was the, that was the mission and the goal. And so...
And you're talking not just producing the sound, you're talking getting there too.
We're talking getting there. We're talking the whole nine.
Right.
So that means if people are listening to that and going, how does that actually work? That means there's a group of people that are on bike, and we're carrying bicycle trailers, and on those bike trailers are, some speakers, some guitars, banjos and drums, and then a bike generator. So we roll up to wherever we're playing. It's got to be regional, of course. You set the bike generator down, you hook up a tandem bike to it, and you get somebody from the audience to start spinning, and that is your electricity. Yeah. And that was really stimulating for us and felt, very much in line with what we were learning about the environment, reducing our consumption.
Yeah, I think that experience was really important to us as, young men learning about the world and our impact on it. For me, the first time that, I dove in, biked with my friends to play a show, and then I got on and I powered, the opening band. And at that point, the bike generator didn't have a battery between it and the amplifier and the speaker. So the louder the music got, you felt the resistance on the bike immediately. So it's like if there's a loud part of the song, you're going uphill, and when it's quiet and acoustic, you're kind of coasting. But for me, it was this unbelievable bodily experience of I can feel the energy cost of the thing that I love. Wow. And it changed my brain chemistry and to a point where I probably became obsessed with that, and I wanted to share it with people. And so that was kind of where Jeff and I started as far as touring, and we didn't have a rule book of how to tour. We just had a dream for what we wanted to do, and we wanted to get the music out in front of people. So there was for about 5 years maybe, every summer we would do these bike tours with a big cool group of people. But then pretty quickly Jeff and I realized that both by farming, by doing these bike tours, all of this was amazing, but we're human and we have a limit to our energy. And
AI wasn't created yet, so unfortunately we were dealing with human limitations.
So we made a hard choice and jump at that point to leave the farm and to start touring more traditionally. At that point, it was in a Subaru. Two of us in a Subaru with gear in the back. We did that for years. Our career started doing well enough. We bought a nice van. But to jump to like the kind of final point of this story, since those early days, we've wanted to bring that energy back. That experience where we can bring the audience in and we can create this moment together. That just to share that is really special. So we got the opportunity to play Newport Folk Fest in 2019, and it was one of the most amazing shows that we've ever gotten to play. It was a place where we saw community around music, but then also around biking. We saw when we were leaving that festival, we saw probably 10,000 bikes that were parked, because that's one of the easiest ways to get to the festival. You stay in town and you bike into it. And we came back a few years later and pitched Newport Folk Fest this idea of like, hey, we bought these 2 bike generators, and Jeff and I want to do a pop-up show. We want to just, sneak up between 2 other big acts and play acoustic and have 2 fans power it. And this was just a cold email. We're just like, I hope you remember that we played your festival,
Right.
And we all of a sudden get this email back, and they're like, oh, yeah, this is amazing. How about you run a side stage for 3 days? We'll put 15 artists on it. Could you power an entire stage? And not knowing the answer, we said yes.
Of course we can.
Yes, the science is there.
Yeah, and that led into, we just finished our 3rd year of running and curating the bike stage at Newport Folk Fest, where 12 to 15 artists, everybody from we got to bring some amazing Virginia artists up to Newport. Our friend's band Palmyra, we've got to introduce them there. They've played it a number of times, and then just got booked as a main stage artist last year.
Right.
All the way to
Joan Baez. Yeah.
Joan Baez read poetry on our stage, like powered by bicycles. Yeah. And to see that like early part of our life and career and activism kind of like moved into this other space has been really, really impactful.
Besides your music and what your lyrics are about and your sound, that whole approach to performing is also part of your trademark. I mean, that got a ton of press when you did that up at Newport.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's growing. It keeps growing. And we just bumped into somebody on the streets of Charlottesville the other day, and she said, I go to Newport every year, and I love the bike stage, and it's the thing that we all talk about because, the question that I like to ask people before we bring out whoever's going to play on the bike stage, because we sort of curate and MC it, I asked the crowd, and, again, for people that are unfamiliar with what this world is like, there's 10,000 people a day at Newport Folk Festival, and there's 3 main stages and the bike stage and another smaller stage called the Foundation stage. And so for all of the performances on our stage, there's anywhere between 100 and 400 people are kind of hanging out and experiencing what we're doing. And the question that I like to ask people before I bring the artist up is, I'm a touring musician. I'm a touring artist. What is it going to be like to be a touring musician 25 years from now? Because, I would like to still be on the road. If I can get my Willie Nelson, he's 90, he's still out there.
He's still doing it.
We just saw Bruce Springsteen, played with him in Asbury Park. Amazing, completely burned the place down. And so we're looking at the future and asking everybody in the crowd, all right, guys, we're all in this thing together. Nobody's got any answers, but what's it going to be like to tour 20, 25 years from now? And this is a way that we can plant some seeds together and start to dream big. That's what we're here to do. We're here to dream, and we want music to be the centerpiece of all of that. And we know that not every stage out there is going to go get powered by bicycles. We're not naive, but we are engaging people's bodies.
Sure. And
they get off a bike and they bike for 5 minutes and they get to sit front row and watch somebody like Joan Baez or S.G. Goodman or, Katie Gavins from Muna or, Langhorne Slim, these great artists that we've had on our stage. They get to watch that and they get off the stage and they're like, I created the electricity for that. Like I did. I helped make that art come to life. And so it's been such a cool place and community for us to just sort of ask these questions that, if you're in the music world, like you don't really know how to ask. So we've decided to lay our cards on the table and say, come on, everybody, let's all dream this up together.
Well, and if folks are getting the same kind of light up in their brain like Jake described, when the power was drawn heavier with the louder part of the song, that's an enlightenment right there.
It is. It really is. Yeah, it's been a very special part of what we're doing. We're happy to continue it next year too.
We know there's a real Americana element to your music too, in the lyrics. The sound is on the grungy side of Americana, which I totally dig. But you guys have a tune called Norfolk Southern. Yes. That's kind of a big deal. What was behind the writing in that? In 2023, in early 2023, there was a pretty heavy train derailment
in East Palestine, Ohio. And, it's just one of those things. It was at a time where I was also a little bit glued to the news cycle. And, I just remember it was one of these songs that sort of wrote itself. Sort of time and time again, we kind of choose industry over the environment. And I think in a perfect world, we're going to find some more harmony and balance between the two. I'm also a humongous Neil Young fan, and any song dealing with catastrophe in Ohio, I'm happy to be part of the lineage of that. And so a shout out to the good people of Ohio. We recorded this song in Harrisonburg, Virginia, right down the road from JMU, and it's called Norfolk Southern.
By Illiterate Light.
Here comes the Norfolk Southern. It's off the tracks and heading for you. Here comes the Norfolk Southern. It's off the tracks and heading for you. That's my town, East Palestine. That's my town, Springfield, Ohio. That's my town, Southwest Virginia, in the heart of Appalachia. And that's my town.
That was Norfolk Southern by Illiterate Light, well, at least a portion of it. It has been such a pleasure talking to both of you, Jeff and Jake, and we wish Illiterate Light all the best of luck going forward. And for any listeners who are interested, they're easily found on all the platforms. You can listen to their music, get out to see them when they're nearby. They tour far and wide in a nice van, not on bicycles at this point.
That's right. Yeah, we'd love to, seriously, for anybody that's listening, hit us up. We'd love to meet you. We meet so many great JMU folks out on the road, and the shows are fun. You're not going to be disappointed. Come out and say hi.
And shout "Go Dukes" and they'll know who you are.
That's right. That's right.
All right, listeners, if you've got any other ideas for episodes of Being the Change, you can reach us at beingthechange@jmu.edu. Until next time, take care.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next time to hear another story of how members of the James Madison University community are being the change. Dive deeper and consume countless other stories at jmu.edu/Madison Magazine. Go Dukes!
The Being the Change podcast was conceived by Jim Heffernan, editor of Madison Magazine, and me, Andy Perrine, head of JMU Marketing. Thanks to Jenna Polk and the team at Rose Library Studios, where the show is recorded by Steve Adderton, the guy who also captures those amazing campus drone shots you see on Instagram. Original music by Neil Perrine, and episode production by the Downtown Creative. All of us involved in creating Being the Change are JMU alumni, and we bleed purple. You can find the Being the Change podcast on all popular platforms, where we hope you'll like, share, and subscribe.